Welcome back. This is session 5, the power of local suppliers. And on our panel, we have Renee Welsh, Alberto Zamperla, Mike Rigby, Prakash Vivekanand, and our moderator is Rosa Tamaseb. Welcome back, Rosa. Take it away.
Thank you very much, and welcome everybody to the power of local suppliers. Before we start, I would like to welcome our panelists, Mike, Prakash, Renee, and Alberto. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
As our industry quickly aligns itself to the changes that need to be made in order to address the impact of COVID-19, how can garnering the power of local and regional suppliers help operations globally? This is what we will be addressing today, along with other key points on how your local suppliers know you, your market, and your needs better, and why now more than ever it is important to ensure that operators are aware of what is close to hand and why. Let's start, please, with a question that I'm sure our listeners are thinking and asking themselves as we speak. Please share with me what you believe are the top 1 or 2 points that make a local or regional supplier stand out. Mike, please start us off.
So I first moved to Dubai about 7 years ago, and that was after having spent, a decade working in Spain, the UK, and South America. And the first thing that struck me was just how different the culture was. And I'm still learning, and I think that is a unique perspective that local suppliers can bring to the table. It is an understanding of the culture and, the way this market works. I think that impacts everything from the design, the dwell time, the demographics, the way guests behave. And I think having that unique insight allows the local suppliers to support the operators and sort of adapt our product to those requirements. And another factor I would also touch upon would be accountability. In the end, this is a very small market. We're all guests. Often everyone knows each other in this market. We one day might be socializing with our clients, and the next day we might be working with them. And the fact is, we can't hide. So I believe that any of our clients that need support from their suppliers are able to count on us. And that may be during the different work weeks, the Sunday to Thursday, which the rest of the world doesn't have. It may be the time zones, which can be anywhere from 8 to 12 hours from North America. And having that ability to count on us at any time of the day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, is a unique proposition that I think we can add value with.
Thanks, Mike. That's great. Renee, can I ask you to add any of your views on this? What would you say are the top 1 or 2 points that do make a local or regional supplier stand out?
Well, I think Mike answered beautifully and articulated all the key things that we also, look for when we open an office in a new region. Our founding team 20 years ago recognized that we needed a local presence in every region that we operated in, and we're actually about to celebrate our 10-year anniversary for our Dubai office early next year. And I do believe that, understanding cultural norms, having intimate relationships with your client on the ground, particularly Mike mentioned the guest experience. It's critical in certainly our, offering the best possible experience we can through our technology, and understanding how that directly impacts each guest in different regions is critically important. So I think that definitely adds a lot of value on the ground, as well as that just having, for us, our local operations team and our support team locally, who have often done the install, have intimate knowledge of the location, and can really respond and provide that level of service that you couldn't do remotely.
Thanks, Renee. That's great. Prakash, is there anything that you could add to this? You've been in this industry for such a long time. Please share it with us, your views.
Yeah, 26 years in this region, and 21 years as ASI. So, I think Mike and Renee have beautifully summarized everything that is expected out of a local supplier or distributor. Again, market knowledge and demographic knowledge is supremely important. Accountability and responsibility that a local supplier provides you locally in here is supremely important, and then just the whole understanding of the operations locally. We are in a very unique world. For example, a woman who's not very well dressed in a video game graphic can be perfectly okay in many parts of the world, but may be objectionable in this part of the world. So many things that we do as a local company in here to customize a lot of the game settings, the software settings, and everything else to suit the cultural requirements of this region. And there are so many things that we do. We understand the operation and the operational style of an operation, and then we do a lot of the changes in the settings of the games and settings of the equipment that we supply to suit their operation and to suit the region. So this is something that I wish to add to what Mike and Renee have already mentioned, and this is probably how a local regional supplier can stand out and support operations better.
All of which are really great points and very true, actually. You are right. There are so many things to take into consideration, and the local suppliers do usually know all of those better than anybody else. Alberto, welcome to the panel. Is there anything you'd like to add to this discussion on the top 1 or 2 points that make a regional or local supplier stand out?
I am glad to be here. Thank you to invite me to this panel. And the thing that I can add is the fact that my generation, we were raised that we are all equal. But it's not true. We have the same right, but we are different. We have different culture, different opinion, different value, different educations. And this creates the need to have locally what I call it a cultural interpreter. The one that can translate to me, to Italy, the one that is going to manufacture the ride, what are the needs, what are the important elements for the local people. So it is important to hire local people, train them, and have them transfer to you, that are in Italy or in many different parts of the world, the needs of the local people.
Alberto, that's a great answer. Thank you so much for that. Moving on, Mike. Can you please share with us, what do you believe are some common misconceptions that operators may have when deciding to choose a local or regional supplier versus one that might be based outside of the region? And what do you think needs to be done by the suppliers to address these?
I'm not sure if I would classify it as a misconception or more of a perhaps not understanding the full value that the local suppliers can bring. I think everyone sees the suppliers there during the sales process and they feel, well, are these companies here just to support the sales process? And yes, that is true. Throughout that early stages of the project, we can work with our clients to tailor a solution. However, it doesn't stop there. I think of all the groups on this panel right now, we're not just a sales presence in this region. We go from design to sales to project management to after sales to really make sure that we're giving full support across the full life cycle of the product. Going back to the misconception, I think one of the challenges then becomes the balance between price and value. I think sometimes price up front is seen as one thing, but it's not understanding that any of these investments are not an upfront cost. This is a cost that is going to live with the operators for the next 15, 20 years. And when you look at the value across the entire life cycle of a product or an investment, having that local supplier is unquestionably adding value. When something goes wrong, you have someone that you can call on. In other markets in the world, a lot of the operators will have a Rolodeck of people that they can call in case of any issues. That just doesn't exist in this part of the world. So more than anywhere, there is a huge reliance on the suppliers. So I think really the way that how we overcome that is by looking at the value across the total project, and then also really seeing it as that we're here to collaborate and be partners with our clients. We want to, help make sure they succeed. With existing clients, that's usually pretty easy because they've had the experience, they know they can rely on us, and that's why they come back time and time again. I think the challenge comes with new clients who potentially don't understand that they need that support far beyond the sales cycle. So hopefully, though, that starts to come into play, that there is an understanding that we are here to support and we're helping grow this region and increase the expertise.
Thanks, Mike. Staying with yourself, have you or Whitewater been able to come up with any suggestions or advice that you could share with our attendees today on how to communicate the message better, perhaps?
During the sales cycle, we'll certainly try and make sure that people are aware of the presence that we have in the region. We've been expanding considerably. We've actually had a presence in the Middle East for close to 20 years. Since I moved here 7 years ago, we have grown to a wider service offering. And I think, with the new clients, it's really making sure that they see that they have that support throughout the sales cycle, that any questions they have, we can bring the expertise into the meetings themselves. As we then move to, once a project's delivered, it's ensuring that we are available, we are supporting the client, and really showing that this is a unique offering that we can provide by being here in the region.
That's great. Thank you so much, Mike. Prakash, if we can move over to you. With the recent disturbances caused to the market by the COVID-19 pandemic, many suppliers locally and internationally would have taken a beating. With this in mind, please share with us some advice on what precautions operators and investors alike should be taking when qualifying suppliers for the future.
COVID has been brutal on our industry. We were one of the first industries to close and the last to reopen. In many parts of this world, we are still not open, and this has caused huge amount of challenges for manufacturers and suppliers in particular, because we all manufactured great product at the end of 2019 for release in 2020, but we really didn't have any homes for them. So with all the investment done and everything else, with no revenues coming in, this has been a huge challenge. Now, the MENA market in particular has seen a lot of, at one end you have got quality operators and quality suppliers, but at the other end we've had like many indenters or posers, if I may say, who claim to do a lot of the stuff. And thankfully, I think one of the positives that come out of COVID could be that a lot of these kind of smaller players who were often over-promising and under-delivering would probably be weeded out, right? So the key, existing operators and larger players already know who the suppliers are and who the manufacturers are, and I'm sure they would do their back checks. But specifically with new investors and new operators who are coming in, I strongly urge them to do serious reference checks on the company that they choose to work with. Do a proper financial background check, ask for a bank reference if need be, go visit their offices, go and see if they're still employing the amount of people that they claim to be employing, and protect yourself, because we want to see successful projects happen. We want to see these projects, investments go into these kind of projects, and we don't want to see someone losing their investment, someone's project being affected purely because of the choice of a bad supplier. I also urge, where possible, open letters of credit instead of, trying to do money transfers, and do everything you can to understand your supplier, to understand their strengths. If they claim to be authorized distributors or something, go verify them. Tell them to get a letter from the manufacturer, or speak to the manufacturers, because there's always been a big problem. In order to, you can be very easily penny wise, pound foolish in this market, and I urge you to take care, because COVID's been brutal on a lot of manufacturers and suppliers, and you can expect, just like operations are folding and closing, and there are manufacturers and supplier entities also who are struggling, and just take care. That would be my advice.
Thanks, Prakash. That's some really good advice. I would say, probably adding to all of that, also do your reference checks.
Yep.
Talk to people. Word of mouth is a very great tool, and it does help a lot. Renee, moving over to you. The MENA leisure and attractions industry has more or less fully reopened since the COVID-19 closures. During the course of the lockdown and the reopening, what business continuity measures did you put in place at Embed to ensure your customers could continue to have a seamless experience? And what advice would you perhaps give to others on how best to manage this?
It's a great question. As Prakash just said, the pandemic has certainly been brutal on our industry, and we have offices across the world, and one of our offices in Singapore. And so we sort of had a front row seat into what to expect. And one of the immediate measures we took when we saw what was happening across China and the rest of Asia was to mandate our work from home for our entire team. So we made sure that they were working home well before the global lockdowns were put in place. And that enabled us to ensure that our IT systems were operating effectively, that everyone had the tools and resources they need to continue to work from their home office or their lounge room, as it might have been. But also what that meant was that we knew well before those lockdowns took place that our support team could provide business continuity, could provide active support over that period, as they're the front line to our customer. The next thing we did was we really took a step back and we looked at better ways that we could leverage our global expertise, and not just for that period, but also for the future. So what could we do with this time to ensure that we were looking at future-proofing our processes, improving the service levels, improving our support levels, so that when we come out of this, we're stronger than we were before. And so we've put a number of key initiatives in place across all of our divisions, actually, to look at how we can do that. And we've made some significant progress on those initiatives. We also then looked at the impact on our clients. All of our clients were closed globally, over 3,000 odd locations. So we then implemented a license relief program to support them financially through this tough period, and reached out to them to let them know that that was available. And we've put some financial processes in place to be able to do that. Another thing that we did was we stopped and we recognised what our role in this was and what our role in the industry's recovery might be, and how we could support quickly our global client base to come out of this and to attract guests back into their location, to make the guests feel confident and trust the locations. Hygiene protocols had been improved and so on and so forth. And so we joined the fight against COVID by launching what we called our COVID-19 Relief Act. We also obviously anticipated that contactless was going to be of huge importance to our industry's recovery. And so we decided to give our mobile wallet away for free. We also created world-class marketing resources that could be used by anyone in the industry, that provided a reopening toolkit, as well as toolkits and lots of different posters and resources that could be used in each location to support the reopening and promote that to their customers. We launched Embed Live to stay in contact with them, to understand and communicate that they were not alone, and to also share some best practices and just information that was coming from different regions that we had access to support other regions that might not have experienced that yet. And that was a very successful initiative for us, and we're continuing that today as well. And then we looked further at some of the key areas that were really impacting, operations when they did it reopen. And so we launched Embed Hygiene Defence, which was a toxic-free and is a toxic-free cleaning and hygiene defence system. And so they're sort of the things that we looked at across probably the first 6 weeks. We ended up working in 6 week cycles and innovation cycles. And we certainly innovated and pivoted and looked at our own strategies and created our own crisis plan to be able to support things into the future.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Renee. That is quite a list of business continuity measures, and hopefully will help our attendees with some takeaways today. Alberto, local suppliers, as we know, invest a lot of time, money, and passion to ensure that they are available on the ground for their customers. Can you elaborate, please, on what Zamperla has done for the Middle East market, aiming to always be there and have the right level of expertise for your customers?
First of all, we created a group of people that reside locally in Dubai that can give assistance. They are technicians, they are supervisor, they are people that can help our customer. And the important element that a lot of time we consider this kind of business easy. Everybody can plug in a merry-go-round and make it round. But it is a different when you have the knowledge how to handle this thing, how you handle the customer when you have experience. So it's very important to emphasize that to run this kind of business, you need people with experience. The other thing that we develop in our company is a remote assistance. You cannot go everywhere, and sometimes it gets difficult. So we create a new software for our computer where we can send image of our ride and indicate if on the other side they have a camera and they can show us the ride. We can indicate what they have to do and help them to fix the ride and to do any kind of work that needed to make the ride safe and good for the customer. To help the people to get the distance in the ride, we design a special element, and we are also providing our customer to our design, so they don't need it to buy from us. We can supply them our drawing, and they can do it locally. So we want to show to our customer that we are on their side. And I believe it is a way of doing business, getting on the side of your customer, helping them on the difficult moment is paying back. We receive a lot of they recognize our way to do business, and was very much appreciated.
Wow, Alberto, that is quite amazing. And even for myself, coming from the industry, I did not realize that Zamperla was offering so many different levels of support. Can you just share with us, do you have a service base here locally for your attractions?
Yes, we have an office in Dubai that is called Zamperla Middle East, and there is a person with a lot of experience, more than 25 years of experience, a general manager, Yasser, that is running the office, and he has a team with him of technicians, supervisor, team that can help also on the financial aspect. So people with the knowledge of our business.
Thank you so much.
Talking about offices around the world, I believe that we were the pioneer on this business. Myself, my father sent me to open the office in North America in 1976. And now we have more than 5 local offices, because when I was raised that we are all the same. And I found out when I arrived to America that the food that I was buying was completely different from the food that the American was buying. So I noticed that there are some difference and cultural difference. So I learned to understand, and after I travel a lot around the world, I noticed that if I am in China, I need a Chinese that is going to let me know the difference between my mentality and the Chinese mentality. Of course, in the Arab world, it's the same story. You know, I like history. I like to know why some people act like that. That's not to say it's wrong or good. It's just to understand them. If you understand the people, it can make your communications a lot better. This is what we try to do, to improve the communication with our customers.
Thank you so much, Alberto. That is not just interesting, but you are absolutely right. There is so much we do need to remember as we move from country to country and region to region. Prakash, as we know, ASI always positions themselves to provide end-to-end solutions. How important would you say this is, and what is the value add that you believe you bring in as a regional supplier to operators?
It's a lovely question, and without making it sound like a sales pitch for ASI, I just want to, when we started in this region, we originally positioned ourselves as a supplier of amusement games, and then these regions were unique. We were catering to so many kind of small and large countries in this entire region, but each of these countries were very unique in their own way in terms of their operating nuances and the type of customers, the type of investors, the type of market demographics. They were all very unique in their own way. When you try to go in on equipment, most of the times all the mistakes in the design would get blamed on our equipment, and then we were told that you supply the wrong equipment and that's why we're not making money. And they wouldn't even understand the importance of operations. And we got tired of telling them, I could give you a Rolls Royce, but if we hire a bad driver, you're still going to have accidents, So the idea of providing end-to-end solutions actually came in from there, where we started putting together a team. And I'm sure a lot of larger operators will agree with me that there's a very important relationship between design, equipment, and operations. It's only when you get these three things right that you start making money in an amusement project. I answer this more from a new investor perspective, that for any new investor who's getting into this business, you have to understand that you're going to keep investing money into design, buildings and building up that design, realizing that design, purchasing equipment, project managing, pre-opening, hiring your staff, and you're going to open one day. It's only from that day that you're actually going to start making money. And you're going to make that money over a period of 2, 3, or 4 or 5 years, depending on your investment, and you're going to probably have a break even anywhere between 2 and 10 years, depending on your investment. If what you designed is not good to last for that period of time, then you might as well not design it. The big problem that you have, that I realized that this industry had, is that you have great designers and architects, you have great suppliers, and you have great operators. And many a times these three are really not talking to each other. The designer shows a great visual, the investor is very happy, and he goes ahead and he invests. And how many times have you seen, great, superb-looking projects on paper fold, 6 to 8 months or sometimes 2 years with an opening, $70 million investment, $80 million investment? It's primarily because of the fact that they never got it right. And you talk to a lot of the designers that I see. I'm in the FEC business. I supply different kind of arcade games, rides and attractions. And to a lot of the times, they kind of get it right on the rides and they kind of get it right on the attractions because it kind of involves theming and everything else. The games, which account for 50% of the revenue, are just boxes, rectangular boxes on a plan. They don't even know how to lay it out. They don't know how tall is a game. What does sight lines do in terms of circulation of people? How do you take them from one area to another? These designers don't realize that you design a redemption counter or a reception counter. You need to have a member of the staff who's going to be standing behind that counter for 8 or 9 hours a day and trying to provide excellent customer service. If that design is not functional, how's the staff going to feel good enough to provide excellent customer service? Then that's what's expected out of them. So this idea of us providing end-to-end solutions actually came out of this need, and slowly over a period of time we started adding a design arm, a pre-opening arm, and a service arm. And when I say service arm, it's just not limited to giving spare parts. We actually understand what are the needs of an operator. We understand what sort of investment do they do into the human resource to run an operation. We believe that running of the operation is critical to the success of an operation. So we understand where the gaps are. We go back to train them specifically to suit the needs of their operation. What are they doing right in terms of customer service? How do they make eye contact at a reception counter? What are the redemption payout settings like? How can we help them with that entire thing? Because if my games make money, if the operation is successful, chances are investors are going to make open newer operations or invest more money into their existing operations. So we kind of created this with an idea to add more value throughout at all ends of the spectrum. And we wanted to kind of translate to investors and operators, just get that balance right. Understand what are your sightlines, understand what's the impact of design. And these days anyway, with projections and LED lights and wallpaper and printing technology, the investment into design has changed quite a bit. Previously, we used to invest a lot of money into design. Now, we normally recommend that invest 30 to 40% of your projected budget into design and keep 60% to 70% for the equipment, because that's what eventually makes money for you. So the value add that we bring is that marriage between, or that strong connection between design, equipment, and operations. And that's what we've tried to deliver as a company. And I would like to say that we've kind of successfully done this across the region. When I supply to Pakistan, it's totally different from supplying to Saudi Arabia, totally different from supplying to Cameroon, or doing a project in Cameroon, or doing a project in Nigeria. So it's been a brilliant journey, and I think slowly investors, especially the smaller ones who are getting into this business, they appreciate what we do. And because they appreciate what we do and they are successful with their first operation, we've seen them expand and do 6, 7, 8 operations. I've got one operator, I designed the first project for him in 2003, and today he's up to 27 operations across the country, right? So, and he's successful and he's planning to do more. And in that is my gratification on how we added value to operators like these.
Thank you, Prakash. That was a great answer. I agree totally with you. The turnkey solution, especially for the newer investors or the new projects, to actually have people who understand various aspects of a project rather than just the sale of a product into a project, it is such a valuable thing. Mike, do you agree with this view, and do you have anything to add to this?
I agree fully with what Prakash has just said. Whitewater itself has pursued a strategy of regionalization, of local for local, and going beyond equipment sale, and that's going back into design, into after sales, service packages, and even touching upon operations at one point in time. That's not Whitewater that has decided that strategy. That is the clients telling us what they need. I think some of the examples Prakash was using, I'll never forget the first park I worked with in India, or I went to. I arrived at the park and I was like, why on earth are there 30 turnstiles at ticketing? And you're only doing a couple of thousand guests per day. And what we found out is because in that market, everyone arrives at the start of the day. As soon as the doors open, everyone is there. Half an hour later, that's empty. And at the end of the day, it's the same, that everyone leaves at the same time. And these are things that, without understanding the market, you can't know that. And in future designs, these are lessons that we can then pass to the next client that is looking at a park. So it is an iterative learning process. And the more that we can learn, the more that we can be regional, the more that I think we can help our clients and the operators.
Thanks, Mike. I'm going to stay with you, and if we can please look at your thoughts. I want to know what you think of the positive impacts of working with local or regional suppliers, especially when we consider the impact on employment and the local economy.
I'm not sure, directly on the employment. We're not large enough yet to, make the UAE economy survive by itself. However, I'll go back to the point that I just made. It's the knowledge and the expertise that we can bring to the market. The Middle East as a whole, it's a maturing market in the amusement industry. It's not had the experience and the history of the US and of Europe, but I think that's something that we can certainly bring to the table. I always say I've got the most incredible job. I get to travel the world, going to theme parks, water parks, any type of amusement venue that you can imagine. And I'm not an expert in all of the areas, but you pick up a lot by talking to, the different operators, by talking to the different park owners, by even talking to the guests. And all this information is something that you can then feed back to the people in this region that potentially don't have the opportunity to travel and to get to visit the amount of parks we have. So I think, we can help support that learning process, and it goes back to one of my first comments on the partnership, that the more that we can learn, the more that we can support our clients, and as a whole, hopefully we're able to do what Menalac as a whole is trying to achieve, help grow the amusement industry in the Middle East and North Africa.
Prakash, is there anything that you could add to this, the positive impact, if any, in your view, on local employment and the local economy when working with local suppliers?
Again, as Mike mentioned, probably as a supply entity, we are not large enough to really talk about contribution to the local employment and local economy. We do contribute in our own way. We employ close to 55 people with an ASI, and we import a lot, we export a lot, so we pay our VAT and our customs duties and everything. That's at one end of it. But the larger values by bringing great games into great operations that are there in this region, then we are obviously boosting more footfall and traffic to them, and that they are then contributing via employment to the local GDP, the leisure GDP of each country. But there are other strong benefits that maybe we bring in as local suppliers. As Mike mentioned, we are well-traveled, we're well-informed about what's going on in the world, and we're able to translate a lot of that knowledge to local to local operators, and particularly new investors who are getting in. But also in this region, I'd like to say that a lot of the key operators are well-traveled. They're kind of aware of what they want and how this happens. But it's really the growth of the industry is with the newer investors and the newer operators who are coming in. And it's to them that I wish to say that if I take a family entertainment center, you probably need products from 25 different manufacturers to make it successful. Now, as a new investor, you're talking about 15 to 17, 20 probably different countries where these products are manufactured, 15 to 17 shipping ports from where you're going to get all of this, 15 to 17 point or 25 different point of responsibilities to whom you'll have to go back for after-sales support, service, intelligence, knowledge, everything else, right? So is this really something that you want to do? You may have suppliers who are locally based, who have all of this, who are able to give you all of this locally. Besides all of this, they also have intelligence of what works in an operation, what doesn't work in an operation. They're able to give you some intelligence that these are the better performing games, these are the not so better performing games, this could work in your region and this need not work in your region. So it is this wealth of knowledge and experience that becomes that positive feel to working with that local distributor. Qualify them right, work with them, because if they work right, it's just not about the price alone. And the general perception here is local suppliers are more expensive. But that difference is probably about 5% of your entire total cost in terms of what it is. If the product is right, it works well, you open your project on time, I can assure you, you'll recover that 5% in the first 3 months. So.
Thank you, Prakash. It seems we are fast running out of time, but before we close, I really do want to ask all our panelists this one question. In one word, please, share with us quickly, why is the local or regional supplier the better choice for operators? Renee.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Alberto, please, in one word, why is the local supplier better?
Is close to the customer.
Wonderful. And Prakash?
Localized accountability and responsibility.
We'll end with you, Mike.
Service.
Excellent answers, all of you. Thank you so much for your time, sharing your views and advice with all our listeners. And once again, thanks to all the attendees. Please bear with us. We will be back very shortly. Thank you very much.